Hello guys and welcome to another video. Yes, I am doing two videos in a row of the hurricane off-season outlook and discussion here. That is because I didn't have a whole lot of time to go over the CANSips and the CFS models for precipitation and shear going through the next I'm going to go 3 months. We're going to go to June. And that's a good time frame because in May you usually start to see preseason, storms and what have you the last 7 years. So we're gonna see what the precipitation looks like. We're gonna look at what the shear, looks like on the CFS and the CANSIP models. All right, so here is the CFS, and this is the monthly total precipitation anomalies. Um, as you can see here, the yellows and oranges indicative of dry air, and these greens are indicative of wet air or precipitation, moisture in the atmosphere. And as you can see, our usual suspects for early season is the subtropics. There's tons of moisture here in the subtropics. Um, as you guys know, when it comes to early season stuff, you usually look to the subtropics for things to develop. That's normally where you get the early season activity. And as you can see here, there is some precipitation here in the Caribbean, but I think that's just your normal everyday thunderstorms that pop up and wet the ground. But I'm also going to say this right off the bat that just because you see the precipitation there doesn't mean that that's a tropical storm or a hurricane. That is just a reasonable set of numbers that will tell you if you're going to get everyday thunderstorms or a tropical system to move through. So just because you see the greens in your neck of the woods does not mean are there you gotta worry about a tropical system here. That's not the case. Okay, so here is May, and as you can see, the precipitation is growing a lot here in the Caribbean and up into the southern tip of Florida here. And that could mean you're, like I said, an everyday thunderstorm, or it could be the tropical system that's running through the southern tip of Florida here. You just never know. Um, that's why we look at these models and show you where the precipitation trail is. And what I've really noticed in the past though is if you get these really dark like blues and stuff here, that's probably gonna probably be something tropical trying to pop up. And we'll see that with the MDR or the Etsy as they call it as we move out throughout the months here, and we get a little bit closer to the tropical season. As you can see here, here's June, and we're going to stop here because after June it just gets unreliable. I mean, we're 3 months out at this point, so it's pretty unreliable to begin with. But like I said, it's always good to see what could be coming up here, get an idea of what the pattern is looking like. And as you can see, the pattern here is shifting more towards the Gulf of Mexico and the western Atlantic here near Florida and inside the Florida Peninsula here. So that's something, seeing something like this for people in Florida right now with La Nina, and you're getting all types of dry spells. This is something that Florida wants to see, whether this is like a tropical system or just your never regular pop up thunderstorms. That's yet to remain to be seen. But we are gonna love the rain here if these models come to fruition, and I definitely look forward to it coming forward because I'm a Floridian as well. So we can take what we can get right now because we haven't had much rain lately. All right, so here is the 850 to 200 HPA bulk shear here, and as you can see, your typical corporates here, MDR, less favorable wind shear. The Gulf has favorable wind shear. Some of the Caribbean has neutral, wind shear here, and a lot of this area is next month is going to start to be more favorable when it comes to wind shear. It looks like, at least according to the CFS, and that's for, like I said, once I'm sure by April we're going to have some decently warm waters, warm enough to sustain at least a tropical storm. Um, we're going to see if this wind shear pans out like the models show it. That's yet to remain to be seen, but it looks favorable in a lot of these places here. And all right, so here is May, and like I said, subtropics. Boom, there you go. Favorable wind shear in the corporate area for most of the May activity. You know, in the last like seven years, we've had a lot of subtropical, you know, features in May. Besides, I think 2020 we had them forming near Florida here, and running into the Carolinas. But most of the bulk of the preseason activity has been pretty much subtropical, in the subtropics. And as you can see, MDR not favorable, Caribbean slightly favorable, and then you got the massive bulk of the favorable wind shear here in the Gulf. All right, so here is June. We're gonna stop here because, like I said, is you know less certain after this point. As you can see here, the MDR is starting to get favorable here with the wind shear here. So we're gonna have to see how this pans out in June as we go out through time, and then you got several of the typical hotspots here with favorable wind shear at this current point in time. So, like I said, you know, even though 3 months out can be a long ways and a lot can change, we look at these models for patterns and see if they are being consistent with each model run that comes by. And I think this one runs twice a day, so we're gonna have to see how that pans out. All right, so here is the CANSips precipitation anomalies here, and as you can see, this is April. Not much going on. We got some precipitation in the subtropics, and not so much precipitation elsewhere. We got light shades of green here, which is not a whole lot to really bark about. So we're gonna move to May, and as you can see, still plenty of moisture here in the subtropics. We're starting to creep some moisture here into the Gulf of Mexico too. So this could be Gulf of Mexico could be a spot to watch in May as well if things pan out. And here's what I'm talking about with the tropical convergence zone. As you can see, it's creeping north as time goes by, and that's because I think we're going to be running into a Atlantic La Nina, as they say. It's the cooling of the Atlantic at the equator. So what that's going to do is that's going to push this moisture intertropical convergence zone north, and that can be bad news for landfalls going forward in time. So that's something we're going to have to keep watch on if the CANSips is correct here. So this is June, and as you can see, it wants Florida to get in on some of the action here with precipitation. A lot of precipitation here in the eastern, or not the eastern, but the Caribbean here too. So the final thing we're gonna want to look at here is the CANSips 200 to 850 millibar wind shear here. And as you can see, April, that's a huge block of favorable wind shear here. Um, I don't know if I gotta take that. We're probably gonna take that with a grain of salt here as we move forward. And as you can see, we're going into May. It's pretty much the same story. Super favorable wind shear in the Gulf of Mexico, parts of the Western Atlantic, and the Caribbean. And then we go into June, and we got this big bulk of favorable wind shear here off the west coast of Africa, as that's pushing towards the south and west, which is pretty much typical for some areas here of development. And then you can see that this favorable wind shear just doesn't go anywhere in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. And here's the thing: CANSips and the CFS both agree on favorable wind shear in June. So you know, you want to see consistency, but also it's got to make sense as well. Like I said, I don't think this bulk of favorable wind shear like that looks too big. I don't think we're gonna have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, probably, because that's indicative of a massively strong La Nina. Right now, we're flirting on the lines of a moderate La Nina. If not, we probably are at a moderate La Nina right now. So I'm gonna come back to this, at least this model, once a month. Yeah, we're gonna look at this model once a month, and we're gonna take a look at the CFS model maybe twice a month from here on out. All right. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. You know, while I make these updates, I love doing this stuff for you guys. Um, I will have another off-season discussion here in a few days. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching and have a nice night.